All right, Jeanette's back.
Back
Part two.
to okay, so you wanted to hear about the Wizard's Mark and ideas. It's kind of funny. Sometimes you remember where you get them, and sometimes you don't because they're so old. Because I have so many, and I have a plot folder with all sorts of ideas. And for this one, the idea started. I wish I could remember what movie I was watching or what story it was, but I just remember there was some curmudgeonly old person, and there were younger kids that were friends, kind of from different social strata. And I started thinking about that and thinking like, well, what if the curmudgeonly person wanted them to be friends because he knew that if they became friends, he could leverage that and use that against them. That really our relationships, the people that we love, they can become liabilities if they're used to control you. And so that idea just kind of germinated in my mind and became this, wizard and this. I won't say it's a wizarding school because that sounds like Harry Potter, and it's not that at all. There's like a handful of wizard apprentices that go and learn in this castle in the Middle Ages sort of romanticy world. And she's a servant there. And she becomes friends with one of the apprentices. And the head wizard person realizes this and lets it happen. And that's because he knows he can use that friendship to his own advantage. So that kind of becomes this, that was the catalyst and the jumping off part of this book. And the hard thing about it, and why I didn't write it for a lot of years, was because I realized that what happened when they were children, this friendship growing and them becoming and being friends for all of these years, before the guy, Ronan, realizes that, oh, like, she's a liability to me. She will get hurt if she is my friend. And so he breaks things off. And I thought, okay, if I start this story when they're children and this all happens, people will think it's a middle grade story because they're like 11 and 9 or something when they become friends. And so I thought, but it's not that. It's like it's a romance. So, but if I start it in the present day of their world, then there's like half of the story is going to have to be told in flashbacks, and that's kind of a, like, you're not supposed to do that. But I ended up, yeah, like doing that, telling a lot of the story in like chapter long flashbacks. And I was really worried that that was going to bother people, that it's funny as a writer, like the things that you worry about, sometimes they're not the things that are actually problematic at all, because nobody has said that that bothered them. That we got so much of that backstory, flashbacks of them being children in their relationship. And in fact, some people were like, oh, I was kind of sad when that ended and they went back to the present time. So yeah, I was worried about nothing. And yeah, I had my agent and I went back and forth a lot on this book, because there was, it's kind of funny, the things that he felt strongly about that I was just like, what? Like Ronan, at one point, there's a village, and the kind of the bad wizard commands him to go and burn this village to the ground because there's rebels hiding there, and he doesn't want to do it. And so you kind of don't find out in the book kind of what happened till the end. But like my agent was so like, he was like, those villagers, they would fight and die to protect their village and lay down their life for them instead of if a wizard just came and said, hey, I've been commanded to burn your village and you all have to leave. Like he was like, no, they would not leave. They would fight and die. And I was like, or maybe they would just not want to die and they would leave and be glad that he warned them. And we fought about that for hours. And yeah, like literally on the phone, him telling me that, that no people would ever like just walk away from their stuff. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure in history this has actually happened. And also, you do realize that our own government like taxes half of your stuff every year. Like, that's a thing, right? None of us are like, we will fight and die for this. Anyway, so that's kind of like the backstory of like if you read this book, because you're going to for
Yes,
your
yes, we're doing
book
that.
club, you can think about those things.
I love hearing the backstory behind the like the back and forth, like what's going on? That's the best part of having these authors, in a book club telling us these backstory things. I love that part.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing he told me, because I said to him, okay, the girl's age, she could be 17, she could be 21. She's just, especially in the Middle Ages where you got married at, 14 or 15, 16, like that was all perfectly normal for a girl to get married at that age. That she could be 17 or older. She was just of marriageable age. For this story. And he said, well, it has to be YA because they don't have sex in it. And I was like, they're enemies for most of the story. Like even if I had wanted to put that in, when would they have been doing that? Like it's, but anyway, it's so it's
So is it YA?
okay, so
Because I saw in the Whitney that it says adult,
yeah.
and I was like,
Oh,
what?
I
We
know
didn't.
that's because they asked me where to put it, and I was like, I don't know, like because I kind of made her, and I've forgotten how old she is. I'll have to go back and look. I mean, she like 19. So I mean, it still could technically be YA or
Kind of in
adult.
that border.
Yeah, and so I just wasn't sure. So I forget at this point how I came to the conclusion that I would just put it in adult. But
Well, I was relieved because I had a YA fantasy in the Whitneys too, and I was like, oh man, it's going up against Janette Rallison's. And I
oh,
looked and I was like, ha ha, it's an adult.
I know I have never won a Whitney, and like a lot of the times I'm in the same category as Brandon Sanderson. It's like, wonder who's going to win that one. Like,
Yeah, I know. I
oh,
kind of feel like, well, I know that they're doing some things to like break, like they've been talking about breaking some things up, like
yeah,
because basically they have romance, historical romance, YA, and it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's way more genres than romance and historical romance. There's lots of stuff in there. So,
yeah, yeah. And when the Whitneys first came about, and I was in them, that like all of the children's was just one category, and it
oh
was
wow.
much apples and oranges. That it was like, okay,
Adult children.
yeah, there were so many, so yeah, I don't even know how people voted because it's like, yeah, it was definitely apples and oranges, having middle grade and YA and YA romance and fantasy in the same category. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the more they break it up, it probably is is for the best
Well, I think
for
there's
everybody.
more and more writers too. I'm seeing like a wider, at least even, I mean, I didn't even know about the Whitneys. I've been writing now for a couple of years, but I didn't even know about the Whitneys because I'm out in Texas and I don't know anybody or anything. I'm just doing my own thing out here. And so since I've been doing it, I just feel like there's so many more people
Yeah,
writing. I mean, maybe because of the accessibility of indie, that
yeah,
it's, we
definitely.
can get more good stuff out there. So I feel like there's a lot more people entering these days. What do you think, Jeanette?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, just Amazon, the amount of books and the amount of authors that are, I think they were saying like every year there's more books published on Amazon than there were for like decades,
Yeah.
beforehand. Uh, yeah, so it's a good bad thing. It's nice to have so many choices, and it's nice that authors have that, but it also makes it very hard for anybody to find to find whatever book you're looking for, because yeah, there's just so much, and the search engines are not always great on
No.
Amazon. Like for this one that I've written that will be my next one published, it's adult romantic dystopian, that I was looking for adult dystopian, adult,
Doesn't
romance.
exist.
And because young adult, adult is in the word young adult, it
Mhm.
showed me 100% young adult stuff. And it was like, okay, that's different. That's not what I'm looking for. But I found that so many times when I'm searching for something on Amazon that you'll put in like sweet romantic comedy, and it's showing you stuff that is not at
Not
all
sweet.
sweet. And I don't know why all those other ones came up in that search engine, but clearly this search engine is is flawed. So
Well, basically what I'm doing is I follow certain authors like you. I mean, I have, and Heidi and I were talking about this before, how we have these certain authors that we follow, that they have that consistent content that is clean, that I will enjoy. Like I have read across your genres, Janette, and I have enjoyed every single one of your books. And so like I don't even hesitate to pick up Wizard Marks, because I'm like, I know, even though I'm not exactly sure what this is going to be like. I know I like Janette. I know I like her books. I know it's going to be clean. It's going to be uplifting. It's probably going to be funny. Please tell me it's funny.
there's it's not as funny as like
The
my just
rom-coms, right?
ones, but there's definitely witty banter in there. So
See, that's what I
yeah,
expect. So I think it's going to come down to that, where people are going to start. Well, and there's different types of readers too. Some readers will just read like in a trope, they're trope readers, or they're, genre readers, they read in this genre. But for me, I follow authors. Like I'm very loyal to a particular author, and I will buy their back list, and I will promote them, and you know,
yeah, that
I
is.
think though that, sorry, I think that part of the problem with that is you run out of books that way, or at least I do, because I read so much. But I have discovered in my life that because I read so much, I have people in my life, like friends that are like, okay, I know if you've read it and you
yes.
approve it, then
Yeah,
it's safe. So I have like text groups where I'm like, okay, this one's really good and it's free today, or this one's really good and you can get it from here, or this one's at the library, and
yeah,
or whatever. So that I have, and they'll tell me, they'll be like, all right, we know that if you're recommending it, that it's worth reading and it's clean.
So you
So,
built
but
up a reputation, Heidi, as being
right,
like a reader influencer, really.
right, yeah, but I mean, I'm not cool enough to do it like for money, but
Don't do it for money. Just do it because
right,
you love reading.
just because I love reading. But the thing that's been good for me to be able to do it is to follow several different authors. So I have my Facebook and Instagram is mostly just author pages.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
I go through and I'm like, oh, this author that I really like recommended this book, so I'll check it out. And sometimes I'll love it and I'll be like, all right, this is another author I'm adding to my group. And sometimes I'll be like, wait, that was okay. They were probably really friends, not that it was that
oh,
good,
uh, that is true. Yeah, I'm always surprised at the things that, well, like my book club, the things that my book club, like somebody in the book club read this book and loved it. And it's my job in the book club to come and, point out all of the problems in the book.
Nice.
They're a little afraid of me. And sometimes I'm surprised that they still invite me to come along. I know I'm going to be like, oh, you like this book? Let me tell you all of the plot problems and character flaws and, all of that. But yeah, I have to remember that I'm pickier than a lot of people. A lot of
Yeah.
people, and I mean, and that's fine. And it's good that people can enjoy books that aren't like 100% perfect, right? That they can enjoy them
Well,
anyway.
and we were talking about that
Mhm.
earlier, Amy and I, because we were talking about the fact that since she started writing, she's a lot pickier when she's reading about books and stuff.
So
And
true.
since I'm just a straight reader, but I read so much that I have different things where I'm like, well, that wasn't worth sharing. But it doesn't mean that I don't read it. It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the effort put into it. I tried to write a book, it didn't work. So I'm not a writer, but it, I appreciate the effort put in, but there's also a lot of books that I read that I'm just like, well, that wasn't probably worth my time. And I'm definitely not going to be, recommending this. So I have a group of people that if I say, this is a good book, you should read it, they're like, yes, this will be worth my time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes. And thank you. Thank you for being that person, because we need that person. Like, definitely.
And
There,
authors need, yeah, those people because we can't reach everybody. Our reach only goes so far. So we appreciate it when people evangelize our books. We really do.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. And
So,
although like, don't you also, you'll be reading a book and you'll go like, oh, this is so good. I'm totally going to be able to recommend this. And then the author does something to ruin it. And you're like,
ah,
I
yes.
hate that so much.
yes,
So much.
worst.
I think the worst feeling in the world is being disappointed in a read that you were anticipating to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was telling Heidi earlier that I have some Fairy Loot. I've subscribed to that Fairy Loot, and a lot of those I would say are actually in the new adult category because I'm reading through and I'm all like, whoa, this is a little spicier than what I was anticipating for YA. And
Yeah.
so, it's disappointing because I can't recommend it to all my clean friends, and so I'm like, I'll just quietly put that book away. I might have enjoyed it, but it's not going on my share with all my friends list,
Oh.
which is it's just disappointing. But
I was on an airplane once, and this was kind of before the smartphones where you had books on your, and so like my mom is one of these people who reads like a book a day and has a gazillion books. And so I was just going out the door and said, oh, I don't have something to read. So she gave me kind of like this trashy romance. Um, it's fine. Like it's just, on the
just
airplane. And the
reading, yeah.
person next to me was reading Shannon Hale's The Goose Girl. And I was like, that she actually has a good book and I've got a trashy romance, but oh well. Okay, so then this plane started having like it was like shaking, and it was having turbulence, like, and it was like I'd forgotten what the problem was, but it had to turn back and go back to the airport, like, and then I had to put us up in hotels and stuff because there was mechanical problems. But I remember during that time going like, oh, I wonder if this plane is going to go down and I'll be found with a trashy romance. No, this is not how I can die. Like, this is how I can't be remembered this way. So,
Dying. That's hilarious.
there's that too.
Yes, yes. I don't want that to be the last book I read.
Yes.
Oh.
What if they find this clutched in my hands? Anyway.
You figure you're just going to throw that as far as fast as you can. Plane goes down, just throwing that book away.
Just throw
Yeah,
it up a couple of
that's right.
rows.
Down the aisle, grab the Shannon Hale book from next to me. No.
That's so funny. Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, Janette. Do you like selling books in person, like doing book signings?
It's generally no, because like I don't know, most people, like I used to do them at bookstores, and whenever I would have one come out, and it was just, you just kind of felt awkward. It felt like being at that junior high dance when you're like waiting there hoping someone asks you to dance and no one is. It was like, oh, I'm reliving that over and over again as a career. Why did I do this to myself? But if it's at a place like I love them at book conferences because those people are there to read, and so yeah, it's fun if you're actually signing books. It's just not fun if you're sitting there sadly. But it's also it's nice at book conferences because you're sitting there with other authors and you can talk to them. I have had experiences where you'd be out doing some teen conference or something, and so they would have all the authors there signing their books, and somehow I always got sat by like, the really popular person, Lauren Miracle. I was next to her once, and like she's got this huge line.
Fine, out the door.
You're just trapped there, like you can't leave. So you're just staring at people's, their lines, and they're trying not to make eye contact because they feel sorry for you. Gary Paulson, I've sat next to Stephanie Meyer. Like I just have a long list of you know New York Times bestsellers that I've gotten stuck with. So that might also have colored my please can I go home so I don't have to look at the line while they try and avoid eye contact. But
So awkward.
yeah, it is.
I think you were did you go to Project Book Babe in 2009?
Yes. Yes, that's where I was stuck next to Stephanie Myers watching her line.
Yes, I remember that. I actually, we're from Arizona. Like my husband grew up in the Phoenix Valley, and we found out about Project Book Babe, I think because we were following Shannon Hale's Squeedus blog. And my husband's like, hey, do you want to go out and do that? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like amazing. And of course it was for a good cause. I think it was for somebody's a book buyer
Breast
had cancer or
cancer
something. Yeah, I
treatment.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I flew out there. It was after a really rough patch. I just had a miscarriage actually, and Rob was
Oh,
trying to cheer me up. Yeah, so this is part of my therapy. And my husband is super sweet. He's so supportive. And I remember going out there and you were just so funny. And
oh,
I was just like, and that was the first time I met Shannon Hale. I actually won a signed book from the raffle, and I went up and I just gave Shannon Hale this tight hug. She probably thought I was like crazy or something, but I was just like, oh, I just so needed like this author conference. And of course I got a, signed copy from Stephanie Meyer and stuff, which I'd never read anything of hers. I feel really bad. I have now, but not at that point. But that was just such an amazing. I still have the poster that came with
oh,
that whole thing, and it had a special place in my heart. And so I was like, oh yeah, Janette was there, and a bunch of other authors. I think that was the first time I heard of Brandon Mull too. Like I said, I don't hear about people. So coming to
that,
these spaces.
yeah,
Well,
that's
great.
fine. I mean, I'm an extrovert. I think as far as authors go, I'm in the minority. A lot of authors are introverts, and so they just don't even want to go out and meet people at all.
Right.
But yeah, I don't mind that aspect of it. It's fun to meet people and
And you're good at it. You're funny. Like I love reading your Facebook posts. They're always super funny.
think
Self-deprecating, I just love it that you're like not afraid to like laugh at yourself, which I think is the epitome of humor, really, truly.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
But okay, so I have one other question because I told my son, I was like, we're doing Janette Rallison, and he's all like, you have to ask her about her famous son. And I said,
Ah,
if I ever meet him, I'm gonna go, you're Janette Rallison's son, aren't you? I promise I will. I promise I will.
good, because he needs that. Yeah, it's been interesting to see his journey and to see what that's been like, because he did get very famous at a very young age, and he's, I think for the most part he handles it really well. But I have, like, every time I've been out with him, he gets recognized by somebody, and I just, like, that would turn me, like, I don't know, I would either have like a huge head and go, I'm going to go out just so that people can tell me how great I am,
Yeah.
or I would just never want to go out. And he just seems to kind of take it in stride. But yeah, yeah, it's a different life for him than for a lot of
For a writer, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I love listening to his stories because I'm like, because he talks about his mean mom or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like, I'm Jeanette, and she's awesome.
yeah. I know, Yeah, and like my favorite video of his is the one that's like cruel and unusual punishment. That's all
Yes,
about me.
yes,
Um, and it's mostly true. There's stuff in there that's like, okay, that's hyperbole, and that
that's
didn't.
exaggerated.
But yeah, like the story about the M&Ms, that is absolutely true. I did like when they would when we go out places, I would have M&Ms, like they would get 10, and then if they were acting
Yeah,
up,
you
I
subtract.
one in front of them. That was the best parenting. That was the
The
best
parenting tip that
parenting
you can
hack.
give to anybody else.
Yes, yes, it works. They would be really good for an M&M. So,
That's
you
amazing.
know,
I just
that's
love it because, my son wants to write, and I'm like, maybe what I'm doing is blazing the path for my children to do their thing. And I think you were so good. Like, I mean, I know he like makes fun of you, and I know it's all in good fun, but I love that he has been able to do this, and I think it's because of the talent that you had already for storytelling. I think he got that from you. So
please tell him that if you see that. Be like, you owe it all to your mom.
like I said, if I ever see him, I'm gonna be like, "You're Janette Rallison's
No,
son," just because he
I
needs that.
at his book signing, and I will always remember this because yeah, and when his first book came out, he had a book signing, but like event sort of thing. They had to hold it in a high school stadium
Amazing. Oh,
because there were
wow.
so many people. So yeah, it was like I forget how many people it held, but it was a ton. And there was a lot of funny things that happened on that day, including like James, everybody knows about his twin sister Faith because he tells a lot of stories, but he also has a younger sister and an older sister who hardly ever get mentioned. And the older sister is fine with that. She doesn't want
The
like
attention.
to say anything because she's a teacher, and she doesn't want every child, to
Yeah.
come in and, go, you're the odd ones out, sister, sort of
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, although Faith was a teacher and she wasn't telling people, and then one day one of her students came up to her and was like, "The gig is up." Like that's what he said to her. I know who you are. And so then she kind of got outed. But yeah, but so for the younger sister, Ariana, like I think it's always bothered her a little bit that, people, even because she's been on some of his videos, and even then, like people don't know she exists. So she was taking tickets at the launch, and while there were some girls in line talking, and she heard him say, "Do you think James's sister is here?" Yeah, like I bet she's here. Like, like if let's look around and stuff. And I said to her, "Didn't you tell them that you were his sister?" And she was like, "Nope." It's like you would have made their day. But so I was kind of helping behind the scenes, and I also ended up, like giving up my seat because people had come, they'd come from like out of town.
Oh,
And
wow.
they didn't have seats, and they thought they would be able to buy them there, but it was sold out. So, we were like, don't that we gave up our seats. Like we can go, like we don't need to be here to
Be
listen to.
here.
I just went up with like the camera people and sat up there. But while I was walking around, somebody came up to me and said, "Are you?" And like I was expecting them to say James's mother,
Yeah.
uh, because if you look on the internet, you can find out that I'm his mom. But she said, "Are you CJ Hill?" Which is my pen name for Slayers. And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she was like, "Wow, I loved your books." And she started talking. And I was just like, "Why is James not here to see this?" Like that I got recognized for his book signing. Um, yeah. So, but that was fun. But yeah, usually when people, like start to say, "Oh, I really love," it used to be that I knew that they were going to say your books, but now I just assume they're going to say your son's YouTube video.
Oh,
No, it's fine. I'm happy for him most of the time, although the problem, like, I think everybody's kids do stupid things, right? But for
yes.
most people, when
Yeah.
your kid does something stupid, 20 million people don't see it. And for
Yes.
20 million people. So there are times that I'm just like, oh, like, can you please say, like, my mother did not approve of this video? there somewhere. And you'd be like, she is currently unlinking anything she has with my name on it. Because yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. So, but like I said, I think it's wonderful that you gave him a legacy of storytelling. I just think that is so beautiful that you didn't take yourself seriously as a parent. I mean, you did with those M&Ms, right? Strict count, but
Yeah.
you fostered this environment where he could have, this kind of an upbringing, which I think is
Where
great.
storytelling is a real job,
It is.
like that I don't think he thought, well, that's being an artist is an impossible dream because, yeah, that's what mom did. So there's definitely that was being like living in the artist realm, doing that as a job was always to my children
Awesome.
a legitimate job option.
Yeah.
So
So good for you, Mom. Good for you. Okay, we have 8 minutes left. Amy Jacobs joined us. Amy, did you have any questions for Janette really quick? She's still muted, so.
okay.
Oh,
No, I don't.
okay, just checking, just checking. I just wanted to make sure that nobody showed up with these burning questions and we're just sitting here talking. So I was going to tell Amy really quick, I will be emailing out a link to Wizard Mark. And so we can read that, we can review it. We'll discuss it a little bit next week or next month. And then we'll have the next author come at the end of next month and kind of tell us a little bit. My husband's like, maybe we should upgrade you so that you don't have to keep signing back in to Zoom because then it just really limits our time. But any final thoughts, Janette? Anything you wanted to talk about?
Well,
What
I
you're working
just
on next? You kind of ran through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, eventually I will get to writing another rom-com, and I'm trying to do the series of the books that are in Montana with a bunch of brothers, because the only reason to have a bunch of hot brothers is to write a romantic series. Like that's
Is that the
just how
one with is that
life
the one
works.
with the cowboy on the front and they're kissing part of that series, or is that another
Um,
one?
no, that's the other one. I should have, after I wrote that book in the cowboy series, I should have just gone and written like 3 more cowboy books,
Right.
because after that, like cowboy stuff was in my mind and I knew important details like how many acres you needed to have a cow graze on and stuff like that. And now I would have to research all of that stuff all
All
over
over again.
again.
And I think
So
that is like one of the problems I think with doing multiple genres, because I have the same problem. I'm like, I'm writing in fantasy over here, I'm doing contemporary over here, I'm writing a mystery series over here, and the context switching is a
oh
lot.
yeah. Yeah, even this style, well, you'll notice when you read the Wizard's Mark, it's still, I mean, it's still very accessible,
Easy.
but because it's, taking place, it's sort of Middle Ages-ish. I mean, I had to even kind of change my writing and tone to be a little bit
Yeah.
more like formal and feel more old-fashioned-y, stuff. So even getting in that mindset as an author, it, going back and forth between contemporary, where your characters are saying like, and Middle Ages where they're using very different words and structures. Like it's a smart authors stay in one genre, I've decided. I clearly am not a smart author.
No, I hear you. I have the same problem. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need to find a genre and stick with it. But the thing is I read a lot of different things and a lot of different things. I mean, it sounds like maybe you read a lot of different things as well and
Definitely.
enjoy so many different topics that
Yeah. And you get ideas, you know, you don't plan what genre the idea is going to come in. You get the idea and you start liking it, and and it's whatever genre it is, whether that's World War II or Alexander the Great or and then you kind of have to just decide, okay, how much time do I want to devote in that researching and that genre. So
right, right. So, well, it's great. We have 5 minutes left. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Here, I'll flip on my video for a second. It'll probably crash my internet connection, but Hello, thought I'd say hi.
Real person,
I
not
was
an AI
actually,
bot.
what?
Is your it's proof that you're a real person and not
I'm a
an AI.
real person. I'm not a robot. No AI here. But we certainly appreciate you coming and sharing. I'm super excited. I've been a big fan for a long time. And I know that my readers are huge fans. They specifically requested you. So you were the first one on my list.
What smart readers you have.
I know. I have
Really?
good readers.
Yeah.
So, and then I will record these. I will stick them up on my reader group. I will stick them up on YouTube. I have a lot of my fans on there as well. And hopefully we'll get some reviews for your books. And I know that you'll see something come of this. I think that would be really great. So
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
thanks for your time. We appreciate it so much. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and close it out and then we can go on with our night. And thanks, Amy and Heidi, for joining us. And yeah, be sure to pick up the rest of the recording. So.